Let's see how many of you are familiar with this strange thing that happened to me during cancer treatment and long after it was over. I would sit down to eat, actually kind of hungry for once, take a few bites, and suddenly I'm done. That's it. 3 bites in, my body would throw up a stop sign and plug my gut shut. The plate, was still mostly full, but my stomach was maxed. There was no way that another bite was possible. And when I tried to force it, it was like my stomach was already full of wet cement. Sometimes I get nauseous and the meal was over before it really began. That was it. Welcome to the Simple Solution Support Show. I'm Danny Cade, a cancer survivor since 2012. Cancer, treatments, trauma, stress, it all scrambled my system in ways I never expected. I learned later this had a name, early satiety. My stomach started sending the I'm full signal far sooner than it used to. A few bites in, and my body behaved like Thanksgiving dinner had already happened. And this continued long after my treatments ended. What I came to learn is that there were real biological reasons behind this. Cancer, tests, treatments, surgery, trauma, and stress, all of the unfun things that come with it, created a storm of inflammation in my body. The hypothalamus, which controls stress and hunger signals, it's in our brain, it got flooded with chemical messages that distorted normal patterns of behavior. My stomach was stalled as well as, the gut brain signaling thing. It just all shut down. And the result was a system that tapped the brakes way too early. My stomach wasn't literally full, but my brain sure thought it was. This made maintaining weight incredibly difficult. I'd sit down determined to eat because I knew I needed the calories, we all do. But halfway through a small portion, my body was already waving the white flag. And, I had to find ways to adapt that probably looked strange to people who hadn't been through this themselves, both when my appetite decreased and long after I recovered. I'd eat off of those small side plates instead of normal dinner plates. A regular plate was just way too much, and smaller portions made eating feel possible again. Over time, my system adjusted and my meals slowly grew from, toddler to adult sized, but it didn't happen overnight. This was one of those things cancer quietly changed about my life. Food used to be something I looked forward to, but it had become something that I had to manage. Drop me a number 7 if you're relating to this. And one of the biggest mistakes I made early on was trying to force my old eating pattern of, 3 big meals a day, large portions, finish the plate. Now, for someone dealing with early satiety, that approach backfires. Big plates become intimidating, meals feel like torture, and the result is eating less overall. A better approach was working with what my body could handle. Smaller portions, more frequently, that made a huge difference. Instead of trying to pack all my nutrition into 3 large meals, I'd spread it out. A small meal here, a snack there, something nutrient dense later in the day. And when chewing or swallowing solids felt like a chore, liquid nutrition became incredibly useful. Drinking calories was just simply easier. No cutting, no cooking, no wrestling with a giant plate of food when, my stomach's already signaling stop. Blended soups, broths, a smoothie, any nutrient-dense drink that delivered nutrition and calories without overwhelming my system, perfect. For people recovering from cachexia, or struggling with appetite changes, that simplicity can make the difference between staying nourished and drifting into underfueling. If that's too much, you're finding that what's tolerable is narrowing down quickly. I created a simple guide with the strategies that helped me get the nutrition I needed when my appetite was weak, nausea was high, and food just wasn't cooperating. Drop the word fuel and I'll send it to you, or if you want, you can just grab it from the link in my bio. Just help yourself. This isn't about giving up on real meals. When food sounds good, eat it, enjoy it. But when your stomach taps out early, having simpler options can keep the engine running. Cancer changed my body in ways that never showed up on scans or blood tests. And when I talked to other survivors, I heard the same quiet story again and again. Meals got smaller, plates got smaller, eating became more intentional. And for a while, sometimes a long while, 3 bites really were enough to feel full. When the goal is to stay nourished and keep your strength up, the smartest move isn't forcing the old system to behave the way we're used to. Is building a new one that works in the moment, and that's what the guide will help you with. Thanks, everyone. Good to see you again, and I look forward to catching you again next week, and I will see you soon. Bye for now.